Kim, and welcome to Ask Mom's podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ask Mom's podcast, the show where we try our best to be your cheerleaders. As we always remind everyone, we are not professionals, but we can share our seasoned experience, our researched information, and most importantly, remind you that
You're awesome.
If you feel you need professional support, please reach out to a qualified medical expert. Now, if you've ever thought about buying or selling a home, you know there's a lot to consider.
Oh, big time.
And a lot that people don't always talk about. So that's why we're really glad to be joined today by Peter DeGraaf, a real estate broker and team leader who's seen it all from first-time buyers to more complex properties. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
If somebody wants to buy a house or sell their house, what's the very first thing they should do, their first step?
You need to reach out to a professional that does this every day, who you trust, and who has your best interests in mind. That's going to be your pathway to success, and you will be happy with the end result. You won't regret it.
Excellent. Good answer. Thank you.
That's a really key point to make sure that you're dealing with somebody that you trust. What would be a good way for them to source someone?
Referral from family or friend is often the best way. You also want somebody that's going to be somewhat like-minded but serve the purpose that you want. If you know somebody, maybe it's somebody down the street that just sold their house, or it's your aunt. Now, mind you, it should be a local person because our markets locally are very different than markets elsewhere.
Yes, well said.
So if you can lean on a family member, a friend, a neighbor, and just ask them how their experience was with that realtor. Because it is very important to get somebody that is ethical, experienced, and sees eye to eye with you. You got to be on the same page with respect to a lot of topics, or you're just it's not gonna be good.
No, and sometimes personalities just clash.
That's right.
Yeah.
It
right.
just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that's why you want a local real estate agent.
Who has experience
Exactly.
with rural properties
Yes.
as well as non-rural.
Well, and you know the area too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you know, the maps that we can
Yep.
see, the satellite maps, that
Yep.
doesn't
Yep.
tell us enough.
Yeah.
Exactly. Topography,
Uh-huh.
proximity to amenities. Is there a quarry in the area that you just can't see that's going to have an adverse effect on, say, your groundwater or noise?
Yes.
These are all nuisances that will affect your resale value, and you always have to be thinking about resale.
And development, too.
Yes.
And development, yeah.
What's going to come up in 2
Is there a
years
highway?
behind your...
That's right. Who
Yeah.
owns the properties around you?
Yeah.
We can do that.
What are some common misconceptions people have about buying or selling a home, especially in smaller towns or rural areas?
So a lot of the misconceptions that I find, and this is people moving into our rural area from, say, an urban area elsewhere, or even a rural area from elsewhere, and also has to do with those that are, say, moving to their cottage. They've lived in the city. They've had the cottage on the lake around here for the summers, and they're going to move there after retirement. And I would say the biggest thing is the lack of amenities close by. People have to be aware of that. The roads, the lack of snow removal, or the quality of the roads, how often the road is plowed. Are you on a municipal road or are you on a private road? Because the private road has costs involved because the municipality doesn't take care of it. The other situation I find with people moving into a rural area in Muskoka is the fact that our rural areas are more remote than other rural areas, say, south of here. Fewer neighbors is probably the best way to put it.
Okay.
And lots of forest.
And lots of forests,
Yeah.
lots of
Fields.
trees,
Yeah.
lots of lakes and water and swamp and rock and all those things.
Yeah.
And you really have to love that
Yeah.
to be there 12 months a year,
Yeah.
or for the majority of the year. And that's one reason why some people do leave for the wintertime. They have a much better chance of success than those that are doing that 12 months a year. Because what comes along with that is the social network that you left behind, your family, your friends. Yes, now they're going to be visitors rather maybe once a month, maybe more so in the summertime if you're on the lake, but they're not going to be popping by once a week. And, what about all the people that you used to meet with once a week for your bridge club or your poker club
Right.
or this and that? That definitely gets decreased.
And the novelty wears off.
The
I know
novelty
when we
wears off.
first moved here,
Absolutely.
people were up here all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's, it's 2 hours from
Yeah.
them.
I've had many conversations with people that moved to the lake. They love it in the summertime because people are up all through the week. The weekends are busy. Everybody's boating and water skiing and all that stuff. Kids are laughing and carrying on.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the kids go back to school in September and it's crickets.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't like it.
Yeah.
They're used to activity around them, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden that ends. So that's something to really be aware of when you're making a choice of moving from particularly south of Muskoka to Muskoka.
Mm-hmm.
If you're from north of Muskoka, you might have a lot less problems with that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the black flies. Just
Yeah.
putting that out
Ticks.
there.
Yeah.
Ticks.
Yeah, we have some wonderful products
Ticks.
for
I've had a
that, but
tick.
yeah, now it's
Yeah.
ticks.
Yeah.
Black flies, mosquitoes, and ticks.
We also have loons
Yeah.
and deer.
Oh, exactly. On the bright
Absolutely.
side.
Moose.
That's why we've been here
Oh,
20
yes.
we
years.
have
Yeah.
so many species of wildlife up here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fabulous. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you got to be a lover of that,
Yes.
or you won't enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yes. So, what are some key differences buyers should understand compared to buying in a city, specifically about the rural or smaller town properties?
Well, if we said what's the difference between an urban property and a rural property in Muskoka, in a rural property, you have septic systems, wells, whether they be a dug well, a drilled well, or drawing water from a river or a lake. You have rights of way, which are often use your access to the property, especially if you're located on a private road versus a municipal road. We have original shore road allowances, which run across the front of people's waterfront properties that people need to be aware of. No natural gas in the country. Your place is going to be heated with propane, oil, electricity, or wood, which tend to be more expensive than natural gas. Your taxes will be less, but it'll probably be offset by the increase in the heating costs. Your driveway is going to be longer, your yard's going to be bigger, so you've got maintenance and time there, and distance from town. So it's how many times do you want to go into town? How far from town are you comfortable with? Generally speaking, people don't like to be any more than about 10 or 15 minutes from town, and then you kind of have the best of both worlds.
Well, especially when
Unless you're on a lake.
Yeah, especially when you're getting older, because you don't want to be that far from a hospital.
Hospitals.
Yeah.
Right?
Big choice. And I find that has been a big difference between buying in Huntsville or Bracebridge versus, say, Gravenhurst that doesn't have a hospital.
Right.
People feel comfortable,
Yeah.
and that's one reason why those two towns are more expensive. Other thing that I'll mention about rural properties versus urban would be quality of the internet service.
Oh, yes.
That's huge.
When I first became a realtor 30 years ago, when people were buying a cottage, it was all about what's the road like, what exposure is it? Am I going to see sunsets or sunrises? What's the the lay of the land, the depth of the lake, how clean it is, all these things that are very, very important.
Yes.
Well, now some of the first questions I get from cottagers is, what's the internet like out here?
Yes.
Yeah.
And until recently, I would have to say not very good. So if you're planning on working from home, or you've got kids and people are streaming multiple devices at the same time, it's not going to be a fun household. But now we've got Starlink, which has been a real game changer, and Bell Fibe is servicing a lot of the rural areas that are close to town that are well developed.
Excellent.
So that's been a big difference in
So
what
is
I've
that
seen.
so is that comparable to the service they would receive in town, or is it still slightly not the same?
Pretty close.
Pretty close
Yeah.
to the same?
Yeah.
Well, that's good news.
Very good.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about finances,
Okay.
because I think this is really critical.
Yeah.
Finances can feel like the biggest hurdle. What should buyers realistically know about budgeting beyond just the purchase price, all those other costs that they might not know about?
No, as far as the budgeting goes, I would say, with the exception, of course, your mortgage amount, which has to be affordable. That will be dictated by the length of time you want to pay that over, the interest rate, how much you're putting down, which is all information you can get from a good mortgage broker that's experienced. Your utility costs and taxes are going to be a big monthly payment in addition to, of course, your living expenses, which is everybody has food and clothing and all of that. If you buy, the government of Ontario just implemented a new HST law, and any new house up to 1.5 million is now HST free. There's not a lot of new houses being offered right now because of the way the market is, but that's something for people to keep in mind. That was increased from 1.3 million to 1.5 million. So there's a significant savings there if that happens. On the real estate transaction side, of course, there's real estate commissions, which you have to add HST onto that. And generally speaking, real estate commission is 5% of the purchase price plus HST. There's a land transfer tax for all purchasers that they have to pay. And there's an online land transfer tax calculator that people can go to calculate that. Other costs you would have, if you were to put an offer in on a house, you would certainly make it conditional in most instances on inspections. House inspection, septic inspection, these types of things. That's going to run you anywhere from $500 to $1,000. And your lawyer. Buyer's lawyers will be more expensive than a seller's lawyer because a buyer's lawyer has to do a lot more investigations to make sure that the buyer is protected. So that's going to run anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500. Inspections, like I said, $500 to $1,000.
I'm going to score big points right now.
Okay.
You're going to be impressed. I know that on some properties, there's an electrical pole.
Yes.
And if you own that property, you're responsible for the pole. Is that correct?
You are.
So if lightning hits that electrical pole?
You have to replace it.
Correct.
Ouch.
That is not the property of Ontario Hydro. Let's call it. If it's on your property, it's your pole. Yeah, then that can be $2,500 to $5,000.
Wow.
Potentially. Depends on the size of the pole and whatnot, and I'm sure that cost has gone up.
Well, let's hope there's no beaver swamp close by.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. No,
So people coming from the city, I mean, you just take for granted all these things.
I wouldn't think of that.
That's why it's nice when hydro is underground.
Yes.
Yes.
No poles.
Might even be worth putting it in.
Yeah, which is expensive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so let's talk about sellers then. So how should they think about pricing their home in today's market? That's tough.
In today's market.
Or
yes.
particular in our rural.
Yeah, and I think the market really is locally is the same, whether it's rural or in town. We've got buyers for both.
But you're talking our rural and our in town.
Correct.
Not,
Like Muskoka.
not
Correct.
like South Toronto.
It's early yet to know what the 2026 real estate market is going to be like because we are just starting. And anything, as we've seen what's happened in the last month, anything could happen. But what happened in 2025, which I think may be similar to what happens in 2026, was our spring market generally is always our best market. We have a lot of pent-up demand. Everybody's been away or they've been locked up in their house for the winter. In the spring, everything starts looking great again. They want to sell their house or they want to buy a house or both. And we have a lot of demand at that time, and real estate listings start to come up. So it's a really busy time and an exciting time for buyers and sellers. There's only so many spring buyers, and when they are exhausted, when they find their house in the spring or they give up or whatever they do, what that does is that leaves the less motivated buyers in the market because the spring buyers generally have the most money and want to spend it. So it leaves behind the less motivated buyers who maybe don't have as much money. So what happens? The market has to meet that new buyer pool and prices come down. What happened last year was every 2 weeks, every month, the prices came down and they kept coming down right into the fall. So it is very important to be on the market in the spring to get your maximum dollar in the least amount of time. And if you're not priced well, you're going to miss that spring market. And in fact, you may be looking at less money for you in the following months. So it is really, really important to be priced at the market in the spring more than anything. And that is when you need to reach out to a realtor who knows the market, is experienced, has seen the ups and downs of the markets so that you can be ready for it. Because if you're not, you're gonna pay the price.
See, as he's talking about that, I'm thinking you need to engage yourself with someone that knows what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
There's too many. Yeah. Even if you're super intelligent, there's too many variables. you know,
Yeah,
where
and
you
again,
are
it's-
in that moment. Like,
and it's
there's
not
so many
something
variables.
you do every day.
No.
whereas we do this every single day. So the words are on the tip of our tongues,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
And our job's to give you the best advice we can and sell your home for as much money and for as little time as possible. But most importantly is to give you the facts and so that you can make the proper decisions.
Perfect.
Yeah. Can you share some of the biggest mistakes you see buyers make and how they can maybe avoid making those mistakes?
Yes. For buyers, it's very, very important to get mortgage pre-approval. Most buyers these days are getting mortgages. So again, you got to reach out to someone that's experienced, someone that's professional, that's going to give you a pre-approval that you know you can work with and trust that you're going to be able to work with that number and that's not going to change, so that you can then go out and start looking at property. There's no sense looking at property until you know what you can afford. Mm-hmm. The second would be, once you get your pre-approval, is finding a realtor that you can work with, that you know has got your best interests in mind and is going to be with you to the end and give you all the advice you need, so that after you buy the house, it's a very exciting time. It's full of stress, someone that's calm, and so that after the deal is done, after you move in, you feel as good then as you did prior to moving in.
And through that whole process, you need that voice of reason in the background.
Correct.
You know, yeah, I know you're excited, but you got to remember blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
This
Are
is-
you cool with this? Or,
Right.
You know.
Managing expectations is one of our big jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Staying calm, pointing out the pros and the cons with everything, being an objective third party
Mm-hmm.
to what's going on so that it's successful.
Yeah, and patience.
Patience.
And diplomacy. I can see diplomacy
yeah.
playing a big part too.
It sure is. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
we're psychiatrists
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
This house is $500,000
But
more
it's
than
all
your budget.
it's all good. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so what about sellers? What are maybe common missteps they should try to avoid?
It's really important for a seller to get their property priced right, because you get more money early in the listing process than you will later on. You don't want your property getting stale as time goes on. You don't want to be having it priced above the market. The public will think that there's something wrong with it if it doesn't sell in a reasonable amount of time and your showing amount goes down. You got a lot of people coming in and out of your property, which isn't great for people.
No.
And getting in touch and working with an agent that's experienced and has your best interest and is giving you a proper value that you can expect, not giving you something that's too high or too low, because that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, and you might have people too, if it's too high, like you say, it's not selling, right? So they lower the cost, and then you could have the perception of, oh, they need to sell it now.
Yeah.
So they go in with these
yeah, and
incredibly
that's part of being
low
stale
offers,
as well.
right?
Yeah. But chasing the market is the worst thing that a seller can do. And it happened last year repeatedly. It may happen again this year. So it's really important to take advantage of that spring market and make the right decisions.
Is there still bidding wars? Does that still happen?
There are. And it's primarily,
How does that happen?
well, you will get that when the pool of buyers who are experienced, who have seen lots of properties prior to your listing coming up, and they know what is good value and what isn't. And if they consider yours to be very, very good value, they likely aren't the only one. And that's when you can get competing offers. When a buyer enters into a competing offer situation, what I tell them is it's not up to me how much they pay. They have to decide. And what I say is bring a value that works, that you can afford. And if you win the bid, you feel good.
Yeah.
You don't feel like
Yeah.
you paid too much, didn't pay an amount that you can't afford.
You
That's
didn't
going to stress you out
overextend, yeah.
and have long-lasting effects.
Yes.
On the other side is that you bring a value that if you lose, you also feel good
Yeah.
that you gave it your best shot. It wasn't meant to be.
Exactly.
So many buyers of mine have lost out on multiple offers, and the property they then bought later, they are more happy with that than they are with the one they lost out on. It's one that,
Yeah.
it's not cliche.
So, any red flags buyers should be watching out for when they are looking at houses?
When a buyer's looking at a property, they really need to take a look from the street. Who are your neighbors? What do they look like? neighboring properties will have an effect on the market value of your property. When you look from a distance, you'll see what kind of shape the roof's in. How is the land sloping? It needs to slope away from the house, or you might have problems with water in your basement. What's the paint look like? Any foggy windows? These are all things that are going to be passed on to you if you buy this house. So you need to be aware of what's coming at you after you purchase in respect to updates and repairs and all of this. Are all the walls straight? Was the driveway all heaved? Really take a good look at that. And see a property more than once, because you will see things differently when you're there the second time. And so will your agent. And he or she is there to help you do all of this. When you're on the inside, be looking in the dark places. Be looking at the ceiling for stains. That could be a message that something else is awry. When you're in a basement, use your nose. Is there a musty odor? Is there old carpet there? That one thing about old carpet, it holds smells. Yeah. And if it doesn't smell, that's probably an indicator that there hasn't been any leaks in that basement. Has trim and drywall been cut up, like sliced from the floor up? That usually indicates that there was a flood of some kind. So look for stains. That's a pretty good thing. And once, of course, you get to the offer stage and you have inspections done, a poorly flowing septic system is a sign of something wrong. It could be an old septic. The tile bed in a septic system can get clogged up with scum from not having the tank emptied enough times during its life, or from roots and plants. Look in the toilets and the sink for staining, which can indicate, minerals. Iron. Yeah. Muskoka is infamous for high iron. They can also make your underwear yellow. Yeah. Anything white.
Your whites are not white.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So look in the back of the toilet.
Yeah. Okay.
Look in the toilet itself. Yeah. Look in the sinks, and a well that has higher iron will stain those.
Just something I want the viewers or listeners to hear is about protecting yourself when you have a house and you own it. So your name is on the title. It's your house, and then you get a boyfriend or girlfriend or partner or something, somebody moves in, and then you break up. They move out, but they want half the house. Yeah,
that's something that every buyer needs to be talking about with their lawyer.
Yes.
Because he's the expert. Yeah, that's definitely a great question, especially nowadays where not everybody does get married.
Yeah.
So this has been such a helpful and eye-opening conversation for sure. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us, Peter. I think what stands out is that being informed really helps take away some of the stress. Oh my God, huge. Uncertainty. And once you've considered, what we've spoken about today, it might even save you time, money, energy, and stress. This is a big topic, so thank you again for being open and sharing your knowledge and advice. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Please connect with us at askmomstoday@gmail.com. You can find Ask Moms podcast on YouTube, but also on Hunters Bay Radio 88.7 on the dial, or www.muskokaradio.com. As always, we hope we've helped you feel empowered, heard, and supported. And please remember, moms, dads, kids, we know you do your best, and you're not alone. So until next time, please take care of yourself and others when you can.
You've got this.